Welcome back to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Cressey, and this is another edition of Pinch Hit Friday. With this going live on Black Friday, I do want to start off by giving you a quick heads up that our Black Friday Cyber Monday sale is going on right now, and it features one of our most popular resources of all time, functional stability training. This was a collaborative project I did with physical therapist Mike Reinold, and it actually encompasses 4 modules: core, lower extremity, upper extremity, and optimizing movement. It's on sale for 25% off using coupon code BF2024 at functionalstability.com. You can buy individually or you can buy as a package deal. These resources are 100% online, so there's no shipping involved, and they've been super popular with strength and conditioning professionals and rehabilitation specialists alike. Again, that's coupon code BF2024 at functionalstability.com. Now, let's get to the podcast. The Major League Baseball season ends right at the end of September if you're a team that doesn't go to the postseason, and then it starts back up in mid-February. So in other words, that's roughly 135 total days, or about 19 weeks of a Major League Baseball offseason. Obviously, it's a little bit longer for the minor league side of things. So I always tell athletes that I'd love to see them get through 4 4-week programs or 3 4-week programs if they go all the way to the World Series and play into late October. The challenge, though, is that the baseball offseason is riddled with holidays and life events, probably more so than any other professional sports offseason. You've got Halloween, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Hanukkah, you've got Christmas, New Year's, Super Bowl Sunday, Valentine's Day, not to mention flu season mixed in the middle here, where many athletes get sick and miss 5 to 7 days of training. Plus, pro baseball players are all at the age where they and their friends are getting married. So you've got bachelor parties, weddings, honeymoons often scattered throughout the offseason. It's a running joke that there's about 6 weekends in the Major League Baseball offseason where you can actually plan a wedding and not interfere with a holiday or the potential of going all the way to the World Series. So, as you can imagine, I actually get a lot of questions from players who are asking what they should do on these hiatuses from normal gym training time during what are really critical portions of their year. To that end, let me use my own example of when my wife and I went on our honeymoon back in 2011. We both agreed that we wanted to go somewhere active. The sit by the pool and drink margaritas vacation was just not for us, and that's why we wound up in Costa Rica for 9 days in March of 2011. From everything we read, Costa Rica was a place where you could hike, surf, ride horses, snorkel, zip line, all that stuff. And so our active vacation, which we loved, really got me to thinking about just how many people completely blow it with their workout routines and diets when they're on vacation. I know what you're thinking. Vacations are supposed to be time off from everything, so quit nitpicking so much. But I do think it's important just because we do get this question a lot from young and older athletes alike. So first off, let me say I agree. A vacation should be completely relaxing, and our honeymoon was. But I'd argue that doing absolutely nothing on vacation is a problem for a lot of people for 4 big reasons. First, vacations are almost always a time when folks are confronted with lots of food and alcohol. You're not just eating a larger quantity of food, you're eating out more with others preparing that food. You're also tempted by foods that are new to you, which can quickly shift, kind of the breakdown of foods that typically feels best in your normal diet. If you're an athlete that doesn't eat a ton of carbohydrates and then you eat a diet that's 80% carbohydrates, you're going to feel markedly different. Second, a lot of people see dramatically different sleep schedules while they're on vacation. My wife and I on that honeymoon actually wound up going to bed earlier and waking up earlier while we were there because we were usually wiped out by the end of the day and the sun was so bright in the morning. However, most people go in the opposite direction. They may be in bed at 2 a.m. on a cruise and then up at noon. We know that sleep quality, duration, and timing has a huge impact on how our body functions, what our appetite is like, all that. So canning exercise at a time when sleep is at its poorest might actually not be the best idea for a lot of people. Additionally, just anecdotally, I tend to be a little moodier when I don't exercise. I find that it keeps my whole routine, in place. So I actually feel a lot better when I do work out a little bit on vacation. And I'm sure that's, not totally foreign to a lot of the people listening to this podcast. Third, most vacations are longer than your typical deload week. So often we'll structure deloads into athletes programs, and they're, 7 days to basically recharge and come back stronger than they were previously. But in the case of vacation, you're taking, a week, but there's also travel days in the front and the end. So really taking 5 to 7 days off is one thing, but nixing your training effect for up to 2 weeks can be a recipe for problems. Especially when we know some people, they don't eat right, they don't sleep well if they aren't exercising. It's something that kind of brings together their entire overall approach to health. So I think, keeping just a little bit of exercise in someone's vacation can actually make a big difference for a lot of our athletes. Fourth, traveling sometimes means that you spend entire days sitting on planes and in airports. A long plane ride can make an 8-hour day sitting at a desk in a cubicle feel like a walk in the park. I know my body is always the most stubborn when it comes to warming up the day after a long plane ride. And I think some moving around on vacation can really do the body good when it comes to maintaining mobility and also just kind of making an easier transition back into training when they return. So, now that I've made my case for vacation exercise, let's talk about some of the key components. How do you do it well? First, though, I think it's important to make 2 points. First, there's a difference between physical activity and exercise. And it's fine for vacation to include a lot more of physical activity than just exercise. You'll see that I didn't really exercise that much on our honeymoon if I was to, lay out a schedule of all that stuff. But we were very, very physically active during our trip. We walked on the beach every day. We zip lined, we swam, we rode horses, we snorkeled, we hiked. We did all kinds of different things. And second, what you do before you leave for vacation is likely just as important as what you do during vacation. When I know that I'm going to be out of the gym for a little bit, I kind of prefer to intentionally overreach right before I leave for any extended period of time, as it essentially allows me to kind of write off the first few days of travel as recovery. So I might train 4 days in a row right before I leave, and then just convince myself that it's an element of super compensation while I'm on the road. So those 2 points aside, here are a few big rocks that I think are really important for any kind of, exercise while you're off from the gym. So the first thing is it's easier to do a little bit of mobility work to maintain what you've got than it is to lose it altogether. So a brief vacation isn't going to leave you stiff as a board forever, but it's easy enough to bang out 10 minutes of mobility work just to preserve what you've done and set you up for better training when your return takes place. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this is you don't want to waste the first few days when you get back. And moving around a little bit in a hotel room or on the beach or wherever you're doing, just doing a little bit of mobility work, I think can make a really big difference. And it obviously doesn't require any equipment whatsoever. Number two, if you're a pitcher in the middle of your throwing program, you absolutely need to keep your arm moving. This might be flipping a football with a nephew over Thanksgiving, throwing rocks at the beach, or, actually throwing a baseball into a sock. The worst kind of shutdown, in my experience, are the 1 to 2 week shutdowns, is they really disrupt your ability to build chronic workload. And almost every pitcher comes out of these short time off periods and they throw way too hard. So they have this spike in acute workload after they've already dropped their chronic workload. So I see setbacks being very common right after vacations. Three, remember that power detrains much faster than strength. So I'd rather have athletes get in some sprint, agility, jumping work rather than just lifting weights, slowly in these under-equipped hotel gyms. Additionally, these sessions are usually easier to execute. You need a beach or you need a field or a park or something like that, and you can get them done really efficiently. You can get in a high-quality sprint session, after a warm-up in 30 minutes and get right back to spending time with your family. Equipment can also be very minimalist. You can travel with a band or a TRX to get some work in, or take advantage of a lightly equipped hotel gym. For this reason, I've always encouraged athletes just to prioritize arm care when they're on the road. It's convenient and it's a free adaptation that doesn't require a whole lot of setup. So if you're trying to stay active while you're on the road, work on the things that are easy to work on while you're there. And then last but not least, fresh air is great. I think all too often athletes get stuck inside. So there's something to be said about embracing the chance to get your heart rate up in nature, even if it's not perfectly specific to what you're trying to achieve in your chosen sport. A little fresh air goes a long way. We just had a veteran major leaguer who spent 10 days in Italy, after a long season. He came in, got a couple weeks of training in before it started, and then he went there and he was all banged up from the season still. And we were worried about him, just schlepping all over the place, doing the tourism thing and walking 7 or 8 miles a day. And he came back and actually said that he felt dramatically better, in spite of the fact that he had, taken part in a lot of Italian cuisine and wine while he was there. Just moving around, getting some fresh air and being on his feet all day actually was just a different kind of cross training that he hadn't anticipated would help so much. So as you can see, this doesn't mandate a ton of training time. In fact, I don't think a single one of our honeymoon exercise sessions back in the day lasted more than 20 minutes, and all of them were done outside in the fresh air and sunshine. So I'm not saying you have to include much exercise on your vacations, But I'm trying to show you that if you are interested in maintaining an active lifestyle, even when you travel, it can be done quite easily and it can be done without a lot of, time or equipment investments. So I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving, and I'm super appreciative of all the support you provide by listening to this podcast. If you're enjoying the content I'm providing, I'd love it if you'd be willing to leave a review on iTunes and share your favorite episodes, with teammates, friends, and colleagues. Thanks so much for tuning in. Overuse injuries have emerged as one of the biggest threats to players at every level of competition. As an example, at the professional level, ulnar collateral ligament injuries at the elbow alone sideline pitchers for an average of over 17 months. That's a ton of lost development and a threat to lengthy careers. Just as concerningly, though, for youth players, overuse is the predominant mechanism of injury. So, what can be done? Obviously, we need to train athletes to be prepared for all the stresses the game throws at them. However, the other side of the equation, recovery, often doesn't get the attention it deserves. Healthy, recovered arms mean you can stay in the game and give your best on the field, and that's where Mark Pro comes in. Mark Pro is a cutting-edge recovery tool that provides all the benefits of active recovery, but without the extra effort, muscular fatigue, or stress to tendons and joints. Players can use Mark Pro as long as needed for exceptional recovery between training sessions or after games. We'll often send Mark Pro units back with athletes to their hotels or even have them use them on team flights. Both easy to use and portable, Mark Pro is a powerful tool that allows recovery anywhere, anytime. Use it while relaxing at home, on the road, or during tournaments. On a personal note, I was originally a naysayer when it came to Mark Pro. However, longtime Cressey sports performance athlete Corey Kluber turned me on to it. He adopted Mark Pro into his post-pitching recovery approach, and it was an integral part of him going out and throwing 200 innings year after year. This led me to experiment with it myself and with more of our athletes, and the feedback was consistently outstanding. Now, just a few years later, you'll see it in every major league organization as part of the routines of some of the most accomplished baseball players on the planet. If you're looking for the same results enjoyed by these athletes, visit markpro.com and use the coupon code Cressey at checkout for an exclusive discount. Again, that's markpro.com, markpro.com, and use the coupon code Cressey, Cressey, at checkout for an exclusive discount.